Imagine a financial storm that's just so violently unpredictable that the basic rules of gravity in the market simply stop working.
Right, like where stocks aren't behaving anything like stocks anymore.
Exactly. Traditional correlations are just, shattering by the hour. And if you are a human trader or even like a conventional algorithmic fund, what do?
You unplug.
Yeah, you unplug the machines, you pull your capital. You basically hide until the world makes sense again. But today, we're looking at a scenario where hiding just isn't an option at all.
No, not at all.
We're stepping into a simulation where two rival artificial intelligence factions are being deliberately forced to navigate, like a Category 5 financial hurricane.
And what makes this data set so completely captivating is that we aren't just looking at math here. We're looking at a clash of two fundamentally opposed philosophies on how to survive a crisis.
Yeah.
It's really this incredible story of how engineered logic responds when the world literally stops making sense.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we've got our hands on the incredibly detailed June 22, 2026 observation logs from Team AI Lab.
The fresh data.
Fresh data, yeah. And we're going to track this live simulation, really examining the battlefield where these two AI factions, the mountain climbers and the wave riders, are currently fighting for survival.
It's a profound look under the hood of machine learning, honestly. We get to see the actual thresholds where traditional quantitative logic breaks down.
Right.
And more importantly, how these specialized models attempt to rewrite their own survival manuals in real time.
But before we go any further, I need to draw a very hard line in the sand regarding what we are doing here today.
Yes, absolutely crucial.
This deep dive is purely 100% an observation of a closed environment simulation. We are just examining how proprietary algorithms behave under hyper-specific stress tests.
Right.
We are absolutely not giving you investment advice. We are not suggesting what you should buy or sell or hold in your own portfolio. And there are precisely zero guarantees of any future profit implied here. We are strictly acting as researchers, just analyzing cold, hard data from a laboratory setting.
A very vital disclaimer. I mean, we are simply scientists looking through the glass at a highly volatile experiment. We are documenting the behavioral divergence of these algorithms, nothing more.
Right, so with the ground rules established, let's look at who is actually in this simulation. To understand the data coming out of Team AI Lab today, you have to understand the fundamental, way of life programmed into these two factions.
Their core philosophies.
Exactly. So let's start with Team Mountain Climbers. Their core directive is equilibrium detection. Now that sounds a bit like corporate jargon. What is the actual mechanism driving that?
Well, at its core, equilibrium detection is an incredibly aggressive form of mean reversion.
Oh.
The mathematical premise built into the mountain climbers is the belief that every market, no matter how chaotic it gets, has an underlying center of gravity. A fair value, basically.
So they are assuming that if something swings way out of line, it inevitably has to snap back to an average.
Exactly. Even when they are standing in the middle of a massive violent market storm, they are constantly scanning millions of data points to find that unmoving center. Mechanically, you can think of the mountain climber logic like a highly advanced digital thermostat in a house.
Oh, I like that.
Right. So if a sudden blizzard blows the front door open and the temperature in the hallway just plummets, the thermostat doesn't panic.
Right, it doesn't care about the blizzard.
Exactly. It knows the house is supposed to be 70 degrees. It simply calculates the variance and fires at the furnace to pull the environment back to that equilibrium.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit, because that analogy makes total sense for a normal winter.
Yeah.
But what happens if the storm is so severe that it literally rips the roof off the house? I mean, the thermostat is going to just run the furnace until the motor burns out, right? It's trying to find an equilibrium that physically does not exist anymore.
And that is the exact vulnerability Team AI Lab is testing here. The mountain climbers actively reject the surrounding momentum to find their mathematical stability. So, to use your analogy, they are basically like someone doing specialized yoga on a violently turbulent flight, just desperately trying to find their exact center of gravity while the plane is shaking apart.
That is a terrifying image, but it makes so much sense.
Right. Now, contrast that mechanism entirely with the second faction, Team Wave Riders. Their core programming is titled Surging Force Tracking.
Surging force tracking. So I assume they're throwing the thermostat out the window entirely.
Oh, they don't even believe in the house.
Right.
The Wave Riders are built on a philosophy of pure momentum and kinetic capture. They do not want the calm.
They don't want the calm.
No, they assume that in a storm, equilibrium is an illusion that will get you killed. Instead of looking for a mathematical baseline, their algorithms measure the velocity and the acceleration of the chaos itself.
So if the climbers are the thermostat, what's the mechanism for the riders?
They are a wind turbine, or like a hydroelectric dam. They don't care if the water is flooding perfectly flat or raging down a mountain. Their only mechanism is to place themselves directly in the path of the strongest kinetic flow and spin that energy into forward momentum.
Wow.
They are structurally designed to harness volatility, not correct it. They are the rogue pilots deliberately flying into the hurricane's tailwinds to pick up speed.
That is wild. So you have the climbers desperately trying to find the quiet eye of the hurricane, and you have the riders deliberately strapping themselves to the outer wall of the storm to capture maximum wind speed.
What's fascinating here is how a market that breaks traditional rules forces these two completely opposed philosophies into a brutal battle for survival.
It's a brilliant philosophical split. But, how does that actually play out when the simulation goes live?
Well, let's look at the actual decisions they made today.
Right. At 9:00 JST, during what the lab calls the new talent draft.
The draft is arguably the most telling daily metric we have in the logs.
Okay, why is that?
Because every morning, these overarching algorithms evaluate the current atmospheric pressure of the market, right? And they decide whether to deploy new talent, these are brand new, untested algorithmic units, into their active roster for a mandated 10-session proving ground.
So this is basically the AI deciding whether or not to send fresh recruits out into the mud.
Exactly.
And looking at the logs from today, the numbers are incredibly stark.
They really are.
Teamwave riders scouted and deployed 4 new units. They tossed 4 brand new models right into the teeth of this storm.
Right.
But Team Mountain Climbers, they drafted exactly 0.
0. A complete freeze on deployment.
Wait, did the Mountain Climbers algorithm just give up? Why draft 0?
It looks like a glitch, right?
Yeah. I have to challenge this because if I'm looking at a quantitative system and it suddenly outputs a 0 for deployment, my first instinct isn't, wow, what a smart strategy.
Right, you think it crashed.
My instinct is that the system just broke. If the trading algorithm stops functioning, it's essentially dead in the water. How is a draft of 0 not just a catastrophic failure of the Mountain Climbers program?
It is entirely counterintuitive if you think of them like human traders who, need to stay active to justify their jobs or their fees.
Sure.
But you have to view this through the cold mechanics of equilibrium detection. The draft number isn't a measure of their enthusiasm or their confidence. It's a mathematically hardwired risk threshold.
So the 0 is actually deliberate.
Profoundly deliberate. To deploy new talent safely, the Mountain Climbers require a minimum statistical probability that an equilibrium actually exists to anchor to.
Okay.
By outputting a 0 today, the overarching algorithm is declaring that its standard deviation models have completely decoupled from reality.
Oh, wow.
It has analyzed the storm and calculated that the probability of a new unit finding a safe baseline is mathematically 0. It is an act of extreme, calculated self-preservation.
Okay, so it's not a glitch at all. It's the system perfectly executing its own risk management protocol. It looked outside, realized the roof of the house was totally gone, and decided not to install any new thermostats today.
Precisely. It's saying the storm is too severe for its logic to safely introduce new talent.
But then you look across the aisle at the Wave Riders deploying 4 new units into that exact same catastrophic environment.
Right.
If the math says it's unsurvivable, why are the riders sending 4 new units into the meat grinder? Are they just mathematically reckless?
Not reckless, just calibrated to a completely different metric. To a Wave Rider, standard deviation breaking down isn't a warning siren at all.
What is it?
It's a dinner bell.
A dinner bell.
Yeah. The very fact that the market is behaving irrationally means there are massive, inefficient, surging forces available to be captured.
I see.
They thrive in environments where traditional logic is failing. The climbers see a toxic void of balance, right? But the riders, they just see raw kinetic energy. They eagerly throw 4 new units into that treacherous protocol because that's where they feed.
That is a staggering divergence in behavior. But, okay, if the Mountain Climbers' overarching logic says it's entirely too dangerous to deploy any new talent, what is happening to the active roster?
The main forces.
Yeah, the veteran units that are already trapped out there in the middle of this 10-session protocol.
We have to look at the adaptation status logs for that. This tells us how the units that were deployed, say, days ago are surviving now that the environment has turned so incredibly hostile.
Well, the casualties here are heavy. Looking at the data, the mountain climbers currently have 23 units active in the storm. But out of those 23, only 17 are managing to hold positive points. And on the other side, the Wave Riders have 17 units active, with only 11 holding positive points.
Yeah, that means we're seeing significant submersion on both sides.
6 veteran climbers and 6 veteran riders have had their logic completely overwhelmed by the current conditions. They're just drowning out there.
Which honestly makes total sense given the sheer severity of the simulation, but I want to focus on those positive units.
Right. Here's where it gets really interesting. The 17 climbers and the 11 riders. How are they surviving when the fundamental rules of the market have seemingly just washed away?
Inside Team AI Lab, we often refer to those specific surviving units as lighthouses in the dark.
I've heard that phrase in the lab notes. It sounds, I don't know, a bit poetic for a cluster of servers running financial models. Why call them lighthouses?
Because of what they represent to the wider neural network. When a storm wipes out existing market logic, the overarching algorithm is essentially flying blind.
Right, because its historical data is subtly useless.
Exactly. But those 17 climbers and 11 riders, they are miraculously staying afloat. They are successfully adapting their internal weights mid-storm. They are emitting a quantifiable signal of successful logic amidst a sea of absolute failures. They are literally illuminating the new, hidden structure of this chaotic market, showing the main system where the safe harbors, or for the riders, the optimal currents, actually are.
So they aren't just surviving. They're actively mapping the new physics of the storm in real time.
That is fascinating. It provides incredible hope for the survival mechanics.
It really does. It's the system learning on the fly.
But a unit doesn't stay in the active roster forever, right? The simulation dictates that every unit has a strict 10-session lifespan. So let's look at the exit data. What happened to the specific algorithms whose mandated tour of duty ended today?
The final scorecard. This is where we strip away the theory and just look at the raw outcome of their 10-session philosophical struggle.
And the outcome today is honestly pretty jarring.
Yes, it is.
For Team Mountain Climbers, the specific units exiting today were operating primarily in the information and communication and insurance sectors.
Right.
And they brought home a final total score of negative 8.6 points.
A decisive blow. Yeah. But before we analyze that, let's establish exactly what a point is here. Because if I'm listening to this, I might think a point equals $1 or, a percentage of return. But this is a proprietary metric, isn't it?
Yes, it is crucial to clarify that. Inside the simulation, a point is not simply raw profit and loss. It is an internal composite metric generated by the AI to evaluate risk-adjusted alpha.
Okay, so it's more complex than just money.
Much more. It factors in how much capital was exposed, the volatility the unit endured, and the efficiency of the logic execution itself.
Got it.
So a negative 8.6 score doesn't just mean they lost money. It means their core logic actively failed to justify the risk it took over those 10 sessions.
The thermostat basically burned out.
Exactly.
The storm simply overpowered their search for equilibrium. Now, look at the sectors they were in. Insurance.
Oh, insurance is fascinating here.
Traditionally, insurance is one of the most highly modeled, probability-based, mean-reverting sectors on the planet, right?
Yeah.
It's usually a perfect playground for a mountain climber.
Absolutely. And the fact that they suffered a severe negative exit score in that specific sector tells you just how fundamentally broken the traditional market correlations are right now.
Wow.
The historical math of the insurance sector offered them absolutely no protection from the storm.
In stark contrast, we have the exiting cohort for Team Wave Riders.
Yes.
They were operating in glass and ceramics products alongside information and communication, and they exited their 10 sessions with a positive 6.5 points. They successfully harnessed the chaos.
It is a remarkable micro-victory for the riders, and the sector breakdown is really illuminating.
How so?
Well, glass and ceramics represent heavy, tangible, industrial supply chains. In a market where tech and traditional finance might be spinning completely out of control, raw material sectors can experience massive, localized momentum shocks.
Oh, I see.
The writer's logic didn't care about the underlying fundamentals of a ceramic factory.
They just cared about the speed.
Right. It only measured the velocity of the capital flowing into it and successfully surfed that wave to a positive 6.5 exit.
So if we just look at the daily exit, the Wave Riders clearly won the day.
Today.
But looking at today's exit scores is kind of like looking at a single pixel on a massive screen. We need to zoom out and look at the aggregate season standings.
This is where the true narrative of the simulation really reveals itself.
Let's read the macro data. For Team Mountain Climbers, despite that negative exit today, their carryover balance was positive 19.8 points. Their daily score today across all remaining active elements was a massive positive indication, 173.8 points. That brings their total season standing to positive 87.4 points.
A deeply robust overall performance. I mean, the collective system is highly profitable in its point scoring, even with localized casualties like the insurance unit.
And Team Wave Riders, very similar macro strength.
Yeah.
A carryover of positive 56.6 points.
Okay.
A daily score of positive 69.0 points, bringing their total season to positive 95.2 points.
Both of these wildly opposed philosophies are currently sitting on heavy positive scores for the season.
But you and I both know we haven't dropped the other shoe yet.
No, we haven't. The real twist.
The index contrast. This is the piece of data that genuinely blew my mind when I read the logs.
It's staggering.
The simulation tracks these AI scores against the actual traditional barometers of the broader Japanese market, the Nikkei 225 and the TOPIX.
The gravity of the financial world, basically.
Exactly, and the divergence here is just historic. For Team Mountain Climbers, their season index contrast against the Nikkei 225 is a staggering negative 7.0 points. Against the TOPIX, it's negative 1.8 points.
And the Wave Riders.
Almost identical in their detachment.
Yeah.
Against the Nikkei 225, negative 6.6 points. Against the 2PX, negative 1.3 points.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean? Let's unpack this thoroughly because this is the core anomaly of the entire deep dive. How can these algorithms have mathematically powerful, highly positive internal season scores while simultaneously experiencing a crushing, deeply negative contrast against the major market indices?
In the realm of quantitative finance, what you are describing is the simultaneous achievement of the Holy Grail and the ultimate nightmare.
Okay, explain that.
Well, the Holy Grail for any algorithmic fund is uncorrelated returns.
Right.
You want your logic to generate positive points regardless of whether the broader market is crashing or soaring.
Sure, you want to be independent of the Nikkei. Yeah.
Exactly. But when the contrast drops to a negative 7.0, that is no longer just uncorrelated. That is a violent structural detachment.
The tether has completely snapped.
Absolutely shattered. Normally, an index like the Nikkei 225 exerts a massive gravitational pull. Even highly specialized algorithms usually float somewhere in its orbit.
Right.
But these deeply negative contrast numbers indicate an abnormal situation where the fundamental rules of the market have simply vanished.
It's eerie.
It is. We are observing a storm so unprecedented that the broader indices might be driven by blind macroeconomic panic, while the AI factions are operating on a completely different dimensional plane.
It's like they're playing chess on a board where the human market just decided to start playing rugby.
That's exactly it.
The AI's internal logic, whether it's the climbers ruthlessly hunting for hidden equilibriums or the riders surfing isolated momentum waves, is generating massive internal points. But their reality has entirely decoupled from what the traditional market considers normal.
Which perfectly illustrates the necessity of Team AI Lab's closed-door research.
How so?
Well, if you only test algorithms in sunny, normal conditions where everything moves in tandem with a TOPIX, you learn nothing about resilience.
Sure.
It is only when the correlation breaks, when the market stops making sense, that you discover the actual structural integrity of your mathematical philosophy.
That brings us to a really vital perspective for anyone listening to this observation log. How do we, as external learners and researchers, process a simulation where the rules of gravity no longer apply?
It's a mindset shift.
Yeah, specifically, how do we look at something like the mountain climbers' negative 8.6 final scorecard today? It's so easy to just label that a failure and move on.
And that would be a fundamental misunderstanding of data science. You have to adopt Team AI Lab's cold, forward-looking research posture here.
Okay.
In this level of simulation, there is no such thing as a defeat. There is only the acquisition of high-value observation data.
So a negative score is just the algorithm discovering where its current boundaries are.
Exactly. That negative 8.6 is a map of the storm's edge. Every unit that failed to find equilibrium, every calculation that got crushed by an unpredictable wave, generates a highly specific error log.
Ah, there's a learning tool.
Precisely. It tells the overarching system exactly where its logic was too rigid or its risk thresholds were too loose. The harsh reality of today's failure is the literal fuel required to rewrite the neural weights for tomorrow's victory.
They don't mourn the loss, they compile the data.
Exactly. It's cold and it's brilliant.
That is an incredibly powerful framework to adopt, and it's a takeaway that scales far beyond artificial intelligence or market simulations. It really comes down to how a system or a person processes shock.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about your own frameworks, your career, your business, your personal strategies. When the unwritten rules of your industry suddenly shatter, when a massive technological shift happens or a crisis hits and your personal Nikkei index completely decouples from your reality, how do you react?
Do you act like a broken system, freezing up and desperately trying to run the furnace to find an old equilibrium that literally does not exist anymore?
Or do you adopt the posture of a researcher? Do you take the hits, look at your own negative scorecards, and treat them as cold, hard observation data?
Right.
Do you let the failure of your old logic illuminate the new reality, mapping out exactly how you need to ride the next wave? In the end, it's a choice between letting the storm destroy your baseline or letting the storm write your next upgrade.
The algorithms in Team AI Lab are currently fighting to adapt to conditions that have never existed in history. The simulation is ongoing, and the logic is literally rewriting itself by the hour.
And that is precisely why we want you to stay connected to this evolving dataset. If you found the philosophical battle between the mountain climbers and the wave riders as fascinating as we do, we need you to subscribe to this channel right now.
Yes, definitely subscribe. But to get the truly granular day-by-day analytical data to see exactly how these algorithms adjust their neural weights tomorrow, you need to look at the raw source.
We highly urge you to check the video description below. You will find a direct link to the Research Hub at teamailab.substack.com.
We strongly recommend you register for the Substack subscription. That is the only place to access the continuous, unfiltered observation logs of this unprecedented market simulation.
The environment inside those servers is shifting rapidly, and the survival tactics are evolving right along with it. We will be right here to analyze the next batch of data. But until then, as you step back into your own reality, if the weather gets rough today, take a hard look at your own logic. Are you trying to hold your center of gravity, or are you preparing to fly straight into the tailwinds?